I'd like to thank the Noble Lady, the Minister, for taking the time to discuss this and explain the government's thinking on this decision to postpone some elections for at least a year. Now, the promise to reorganise local government was in the Labour Party's manifesto, but the method to be used wasn't. And so this statutory instrument is not actually delivering the manifesto promise, and therefore this House is well within its rights to vote against the proposition. It's always a bad idea to cancel elections at the best of times, and this is clearly not the best of times. In fact, one could say it's the worst of times. We have more cuts to services at the moment than we've had for some time. They're already on their knees. We've got council taxes going up again as people pay more for less. So local government's in a bit of a state. And so I don't see the common sense in delaying elections and then starting them up or running them a year later with the plan to allow the current councils to devise the next move towards reorganisation. People have a right to vote. That's what being in a democracy means. And the timetable is set out and understood by the general public. And so actually changing that seems to be a little bit unprincipled. It's hard to think of anything more democratic than cancelling elections ahead of a significant change in local democracy. It's straight out of an authoritarian playbook. And then creating a devolved morality by cancelling county council elections just seems very odd, in fact nonsensical, and again is undemocratic at the very least. This rushed decision means that voters won't have the chance to have their say on new councillors for at least a year. That means that the councils that have delayed elections don't actually have a mandate to do the reorganisation that the government is asking it to do. Voters should be able to decide which councillors would have the opportunity to plan for the new structure. Local political parties ought to put such plans into their manifestos for voters to see and vote for or against. There are a lot of people who could potentially vote in May in the postponed elections who will now be denied the chance to protest, complain and elect people who've got a different vision of how their area should be run. I'm told by a councillor in East Devon District Council that the council has already begun acting in line with the proposed reorganisation, despite no public consultation taking place, due to an alleged lack of time, which is something that we've heard from the government as well. Decisions have therefore been delegated to unelected officers and executives, raising clear concerns about democratic accountability and statutory obligations under the Localism Act of 2011. In addition, the councillor admitted that neither councillors nor the electorate have a clear understanding of how this organisation will work or even what it will be, and yet actions are being taken regardless. It seems that local authorities are already acting under the influence of centralised restructuring before it's even been democratically validated. And also, is it really for the Secretary of State to select which elections can go ahead and which can't? And doesn't this set a dangerous precedent to allow Secretary of State to make these decisions? It's not a national emergency like COVID, when we understand why elections were postponed, which justified the decision. So now, do we accept, for whatever good reason the government thinks, that the Secretary of State can disrupt the election cycle, delay elections to a convenient time? Now that's more than authoritarian, that's almost Trumpian. And I do have to ask, is it legal? Now, I did consult a member of the bar earlier. He's not in his seat, and he said, oh, it depends, which is, I think, probably what I would have expected. Now, this fatal motion would greenlight the postponed elections to go ahead, but Labour have already tabled this vote at the last possible moment on the last possible day. And so now the government can say to us, well, it's too late to go ahead. And then, of course, we're going to have mayoral elections next year in 2026. And I understand that the delayed elections will all be held then. Perhaps could the Noble Lady, the Minister, reassure me on that point, that all delayed elections will be run next year. And then in the year 2027, there will be the new shadow principal authority elected. And again, it is quite fast. I understand the government promised this and therefore they need to move fast. But really, I am very concerned about the democratic processes here. Now, could the noble lady Minister confirm that that means that some councils and some councillors could have been in post for 3 years beyond their original mandate? There's also the problem that this is not about devolution at all, but is about making it easier for government to liaise with fewer stakeholders, that is, mayors. So this is actually sucking power upwards. It's not devolution at all. It's about the government making life easier for themselves and giving local people less say in what happens in their local area. Strategic planning decisions will be taken out of the hands of people who know the area and given to the mayor, who could take decisions against the interests of local residents. This is a reason not to rush into postponing elections. And of course, I am concerned whether or not there's been an assessment of whether this arrangement will actually save money. Will it improve efficiency? And will it support social cohesion? Will it make local people have more access to knowledge and decision-making? And if there is a report, if there is an assessment, I'm curious about who wrote that report and when it was written. I look forward to hearing the Minister's answers, but clearly I think that what is happening is not democratic, and on that principle alone, I actually do move my motion.